Why, hello there folks. Today we are looking at Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. This is a cooperative deck building game. It's a pretty big box. There's some things I really like about this. There are, but there's a lot of things that I think I don't prefer with games. Now before you jump off this video, I want to tell you the reasons why you may like this game and the reasons you might not like this game. Now, one of the reasons that I am not the biggest fan of this game is because I have so many games that I'm going to jump to a lot of other deck building games, even cooperative deck building games, before this one. But if you are a Harry Potter fan, if you like deck building, I think you should hear me out. I think you should take a look at this, and you might really enjoy this game. So, fairly basic game to jump into the beginning. One of the things I like about it is it is a campaign game, which is really pretty cool. If you don't know what that means, I'll show you in a second. Nice rule book. As far as components go, the components of this game, the box and this feels really nice. I think it's waterproof on the outside of this, which is really cool. Straightforward, lots of pictures, examples. You can jump into this very quickly. You can probably open up game number 1 right here, this box, and look at the picture, set everything up, and just initially start playing if you know how to play deck building games. But we've got our big play area here. This is the big board. I actually, for like the last half of the games, this is a big board. It's much bigger than it needs to be. I folded it in half and I just put everything on half of the board. So you don't really have to have the board. It's in essence a card game. The board is not super important, but it does help to know where the piles are and different things like that. And again, it is really nice quality, so would recommend using it, but if you're tight on space, you don't have to use it. Now, I mentioned this being a campaign game. What I mean by that is you have these 7 different boxes. Now, if you really like Harry Potter, you really enjoy the books or movies, both, whatever, this is something I think you're gonna love way more than I did, because I think I've seen the first movie, and that's maybe it. I've not read the books. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. It's fine. I don't mind the theme. But if you're a huge fan, I think this is one thing that definitely you would enjoy. Because as you're opening these different boxes, there's some little things that change. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but you can imagine what characters might come out in the different games. And so I think that's pretty cool. I really do. I like that. I could see that being a huge thing that'd be super fun if you're someone that enjoys that kind of thing. So what you're going to do in this game, you're going to take this box, game number 1, pull it out, and basically you're going to have your starting decks for your player. Like any deck building game, you start with a pretty weak hand, and then you're going to be purchasing other cards into your hand, shuffling all of them together, and then getting 5 and looking at them, and you're going to have more and more powerful hands the more the game goes on, and that's going to continue to build and build as you go through these 7 games. Now, when you finish the 7 games, you can keep everything out, and you can still play with all of it all the time. One mechanism in this game that I don't prefer with deck building games is called the river, and so what that means is you're going to take all of your good cards, basically, that you're buying. You're going to shuffle all of them together, put them in a stack, you put out 6, and that's what you can buy from. I don't love that because you've got a pretty thick stack at the end especially, so you don't know what cards you're going to see. You may get super powerful cards at the beginning, but you don't have enough money to buy them, and so you're kind of stuck. Or you might get super weak cards and they just sit out there longer and longer because you don't want them. And so you could do some house rules where you say, you know, once per turn, if you want, you can take a card and just put it at the bottom of the deck and pull out a new one. That would be something. You can do little house rules to adjust things the way that you want to make it more fun. I'm a huge proponent of that because games are intended to be fun. Make it fun for your group. Change the rules however you need to, whatever. But in this game, you have your little board right here, which has your health on it. You have money, and then you have attack, basically. So you are recruiting new heroes, spells, items into your hand, making it stronger, like I said before. And I think one thing that I love about this game most is the cooperative aspect to it. There's a lot of deck building games where you're not really you're not interacting much with the other people you're playing with. Whereas this game, my wife and I played just a 2-player game, and there's a card you could play out that says any player gain 2 health. And so I can look at her and say she has less health than me. Sure, you go ahead and get health. Or you can say any player gets 1 coin and 1 health. And I'm looking at my hand, I'm like, 1 coin doesn't do me any good. How about you? Would that be helpful for you? And she's like, oh yeah, 1 more, I could buy that card. That's really fun. That's really cool. I like that quite a bit. At the end, Game 7, without spoiling anything, one thing I don't like about it is how much there is to manage. At the beginning of every turn, there's a dark arts card that you flip, and that's a bad thing. And then there's villains, and you have to look at each villain that's out, and bad things happen there as well. And so at the end, like at Game 7, you're just looking at so much stuff because there may be multiple dark arts cards that you have to flip. So you're doing all of those, and then you're looking at each villain. And it seems like the management of the bad things that are happening takes way more time and mental energy. And at the end, you're like looking at these special abilities you have. There's these cards where if you do this, you get this. There's a lot to manage. I love the way that they scale you into that with the 7 games. But it's just a lot to manage. It's more than I would want to do. It's very complex in a way, but also very simple in a way. And I don't personally love the way that happens. But I would say that if you are a Harry Potter fan, you enjoy deck building, this would be, I think you would really enjoy the playthrough of the 7 games. Now, if you continually pull it out a bunch after that, I'm not sure if you would or not. It's a game that I would rather pull out Dominion, I'd rather pull out Aeon's End, I'd rather pull out Marvel Legendary. There's a lot of other deck building games that I would choose over this now that I've played through it. So my wife and I really enjoyed playing through it, but it's not a game I would jump back on a lot. So that is my personal opinion. I think it just doesn't have as much replay value to me, and it seems a little imbalanced, and there's a lot to track. Those are the reasons I don't like it as much as others. I do like it, just not as much as others. So I'm wanting to be clear there. If you enjoy Harry Potter, if you enjoy deck building, I think you should maybe check this game out. Maybe watch another video on more in-depth stuff. But overall, I do enjoy this game, and I think it's worth looking into with those parameters. So hopefully that gives you just a nice little touch and a taste of Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, what the game is, what it does, and why it may or may not be right for you. Thanks.